Hello, my name is Ruben Degollado. I am the coordinator of school turnaround and federal programs compliance here at Region 1. This is the program evaluation online module. As of right now, this is a recording, was never provided live. I'm sending it out in anticipation of the scheduled date for the webinar. I had a conflict here with the ACIT conference. So I wanted to make sure that you got the information, but it was scheduled during ACIT. So hopefully you're viewing this having gone to ACIT and at a time that's convenient to you. So this presentation that you're going to see right now is kind of a combination of the newest information that's been provided to us from TEA and has some older information that's still applicable even though it was under NCLB. So I am going to get out of this title slide and I'm going to take you to where some of these resources are just so you have them for your frame of reference. So I'm going to pause the share and I'm going to share a new screen with you. All right, so from our homepage, you'll go to Programs and Services, go to our alphabetical listing, you go to Title I, Part A, Flexibility Waiver, and then you go to our Federal Programs Webinars, and you'll see an archive of webinars going back to 2014-15 school year, and you scroll all the way down to 17-18 webinars. You'll see we did a few this year, and it'll be down here at the bottom. So program evaluation under Title I Part A and ESSA, you'll see it here. Now I've been having technical difficulties uploading it to the page like this. So it may be either available as viewable from this page, it may be a link, or it may be a direct download. It just depends on the system. So like I said, I apologize, but I've been having technical difficulties uploading those to the web page itself. So we'll just have to see. But regardless of what format I provide that to you in, it will be at this bottom here at the page. The other thing, there's two other resources that are located here. The PowerPoint itself, which I'll click on this so you can see, it is a PDF of the 24 slides that I'll be sharing with you. And this is a shorter one. Typically, you know, the webinars are a little bit longer. You know, when I do the campus improvement plans and the CNAs, they are longer, but this is just one small part, but crucial part of Title I Part A and ESSA programs. So let me go back. The PowerPoint is there, and the other download is the old NCLB program evaluation tool. That is an Excel sheet, and I'll cover the details of that in just a little bit, but it was created under NCLB. I'm sharing this one because there is no new tool. So it just has a couple of different programs under Title I. There's tabs for those: Title I Part A, Parental Involvement, Part C, and then all the other title programs under ESSA. Now again, there is no new tool, so this is still applicable. It still has the same, the same requirements as far as having an evaluation committee and then just looking at the needs from the CNA. It doesn't directly reference the older 10 school-wide components or the components of the CNA. So that's why in my mind it's still applicable to what you did before. So okay, so that's that. Let me get right into the presentation. I'll close those out and I'm going to now share my presentation with you. All right, so with a program evaluation, what you're really looking at when you get into program evaluation, you're not looking at it from a fiscal perspective or looking at it as an audit or a document review or anything like that. With evaluation, essentially what you have is you're taking a look at all of your strategies and your activities that you listed out in your either your campus improvement plan or your district improvement plan. So you're taking those line by line, strategy by strategy that you listed out there, and essentially what you're asking is, did it work? And if it didn't work, you make recommendations and you readjust your plan, or if the strategy or activity did work and you have data to back that up, to quantify that worked, then you could continue doing whatever strategy or activity that it was. So in a nutshell, that's what you have when you're getting into this process of evaluation of programs. The other thing, when you're writing your evaluation, depending on your district and who you are supposed to be presenting this evaluation to, you have to first consider your audience. So according to TEA and the old guidance, which still applies here, is your audience is anyone with an investment in your campus who is interested in whether or not the goals of the CIP or the DIP were met. So when you consider who to write this to, that's really the understanding that you have, is it's written to the stakeholders that have some kind of stake in whether or not your CIP was successful. So with that in mind, you're keeping data in mind, but you're also keeping the language to the stakeholder group in mind. Evaluation should have the percentage of students who reach proficiency on state assessments. So you're taking that baseline data from the year prior or benchmarks, and then you're having percentages of those students, not only the all student group, but also looking at your special population groups that are also there in the data. Okay, how well did our specific instructional strategies that we put into place on the campus or in the district, how did those do? How well did what kind of job did we do with having our stakeholders participate in decision making, in assessment writing, and in program formative evaluation, or formative assessment rather? And then how do we include parents? What was our degree of parental involvement? So those are the 4 cornerstones of a program evaluation. And as you're going through this process, you want to keep those at the forefront of your thinking, so that you are definitely tying it back to how well students did on those state assessments. You're being able to evaluate and look at the kind of teaching that informed those scores, to make sure that if you put some kind of program into place, that it was implemented with fidelity, but also that it was effective. And then again, how did you have your stakeholders participating, including your parents? So with a program evaluation, there's the inputs, and an input is a resource that you put into the program activity or strategy. Okay. The other thing is, if you are like I'll use that example again of a online reading program, what kind of money did you put towards that, but also what kind of data did you gather to ensure that the teachers were using that well, and that it was used with the intent, with not just the intent of the program, but also with how it was supposed to be laid out. So those are just inputs. Basically, inputs will tell you the data is what it is because of this. That's really what you're looking at when you have inputs. Activities. With activities, all those events that you had, all the professional development, all the trainings, all the the parent nights, and all those different things that you did they take place as scheduled? Not did they have an impact. This is more of implementation data. Is, did we do those? Do we have, if we were asked, would we have the proper documentation to lay out a defense that yes, we did do these things that we said we were going to do? All right. The other things to consider are short-term effects and then long-term effects, or longer-term effects. So putting this strategy in place, what were the short-term effects? Did we see some improvements there? And then longer-term thinking about, over time, over the next 5 years or so, were there any effects that we would see to lay the groundwork for any other initiatives that we have moving forward. So here's what an evaluation report can do, and I'll show you the template in just a minute here, but the first thing is it can inform internal program management, and it helps campus leaders make informed decisions to improve the quality of their program without doing evaluation at the end of the year, or, a formal evaluation of the program. You may continue to do the same things and hope for different results. But as you know, just having read research and having been a part of campuses and districts, you know that if you continue doing the same thing, you're going to get those same results you've always gotten. So this will give you that data to either stay the course or change course. Answer stakeholder questions. The evaluation will help you do that as well. And then help them better understand how effectively the campus is meeting its stated goals. So as I mentioned earlier, you need to consider your audience and kind of anticipate some of the questions they might have. So as you're writing your program evaluation, just as you're writing your campus improvement plan, you want to keep the evaluation in an understandable language and in a format that is accessible to different stakeholders that you have in your community. You want to increase the understanding of specific strategies and help the campus determine the usefulness of the activities it has undertaken to increase student achievement. And then lastly, you promote interest in and support of a program or activity by illustrating certain strategies and how they can improve student achievement. So you know those strategies, you have them in place, but also here you are using this evaluation to gain some support from maybe central office or your learning community at large. So this is, in another visual, this could probably be a circle because it really is the continuous improvement process, but you have your CNA, and the questions that you ask in that CNA is, what are our needs? Where do we focus our efforts? And then with that information, you put that into the plan, the campus improvement plan or district improvement plan, and you start those strategies and those activities that will help you meet those needs. So once that plan has been in place all year long, you come to the end of it, you have student data, students have taken STAR, students have taken all those different assessments that informed the CNA in the first place, and then you ask yourself, were we successful in addressing our needs and focus areas? So as I mentioned earlier, you are looking not just at student data, but you're looking at all the data that you had initially laid out with the comprehensive needs assessment, and that includes the implementation data, whether or not we did what we said we were going to do, and the impact data, which answers the question whether what we did actually had a positive effect or a negative effect. It might go either way. So this starts the new information from TEA. This is the coming from the TEA latest toolkit on campus improvement plans and on CNAs. So this is a must. That's the thing I want to stress here is, evaluating your plan in some ways, I guess, had the reputation as being optional. I've heard it out there that it was, just something that you could do, but really under ESSA, and it's always been this way, but ESSA is reaffirming this fact is it's a required activity. A school-wide program will develop a comprehensive plan, which we know that remains in effect for participating in the duration of the time you're participating under Title I or ESSA programs. And then it says regularly monitored and revised as necessary based on student needs. And I won't read the rest there, but you see it's under statute. This is straight from Every Student Succeeds Act. It is regularly monitored and revised as necessary based on student needs. So moving into Every Student Succeeds Act, which was signed in December of 2015, this is a requirement. So you want to make sure that if you were ever audited programmatically, you would be able to show with due diligence and with all authenticity that you have evaluated your plan and you are adjusting it accordingly for the next school year. So here's the process, and this is a little more fleshed out than I showed you on on the previous slide, but you have the identified needs from the CNA, you have your strategies in your DIP and your CIP, then you look at, well, how much money are we putting towards that? And that's something I want to stress here, is that not only are you looking at the effects of the program, but you want to make sure that you're also looking at the amount that was spent on that. So in the past, in past trainings with campus improvement plans, you know, I always talk about you need to put the funding source, the amount that you budget is really up to you, but under this new not a new requirement, but reaffirmed requirement, I think it would be wise to you know, put the amount that you're spending for the expended strategy, so that when you go back and evaluate, if you budgeted $1,000, again using that reading online reading program, if you budgeted $1,000 per grade, and it's a middle school, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and you budgeted $3,000 out, you want to make sure that at the end of it, that you spent the money that you said you were going to spend. And if you did not spend the money, you want to look at the data, see there was a correlation. So let's say 6th grade spent the money, 7th grade did not, 8th grade did not. And then when you come down to it, there's a possibility that, you know, the other 2 grades that did not spend the money on the program did not have the same kind of score. Of course, you'd want to overlay the data and all that, but that's just one other data set to show you, is that you, if you budgeted money towards that, you did support that strategy. You want to make sure that it was spent and that it was used effectively as that program was intended to be. Then number 4 there, you review the data to measure fidelity of implementation and impact on student outcomes. So just as you identify whether or not you had fidelity in the financial realm, you want to look at the program realm and make sure that people are doing it. So if you, again, I'll use that reading program. I'm going to keep coming back to that. But if you use that online reading program, did you evaluate it? You know, did an administrator go in and give feedback to the paraprofessional that was implementing that program in the library or the computer lab? Was that person supported? Were they sent to training? Were all the staff that were there sent to training? Did you have the you know, the technical, I'm not a computer person, but the, what do you call it? Were your computers up to serving that program? I can't think of the word for it, but you know, if you're using old computers from 2004 and we're here in 2018, you know, really did you you know, provide the support that you needed to, or were those computers being updated? So those are other things to look at, is just the implementation, so that when you evaluate the program, you know, if it comes to the end of it and people say, well, you know, we bought this program, but it didn't work, right? So you hear that from stakeholders, but then you go back and you say, well, you know, nobody ever sent the kids to the reading program or to the advisory period where they were supposed to use it. No one was trained. It wasn't loaded on our computers. So see, that's what I'm saying. You need that kind of information to be able to tell you and rule out any effects, or to rule in any effects if the program was successful. Then when you get to the end of it, you evaluate the impact and make recommendations for continuation or modification of strategies. So before you recommend to continue something, you need data. So you're going to need multiple measures of data to tell you whether or not that strategy, that activity was effective. So either that or it was ineffective. We've ruled it out. We supported it. The computers were up to par. We had the right staff. We had the right schedule. But it wasn't effective. Well, then maybe that's not something you want to continue. You want to modify that strategy, maybe use something else. So here's the process of evaluation: is you list your needs, and this is the new verbiage taken from the old verbiage on your steps of the evaluation process. So it just looks a little different, but you list the needs that are identified with the CNA. You identify the strategies that address those needs, and when you do this, identifying these strategies, you are coming straight from the district or campus improvement plan. Okay, so in that, you identify strategies or initiatives that address the program needs and were connected to the federal program. So if you're evaluating Title I Part A, You're not going to evaluate Title I Part C or Title III. You're completely sticking to Title I Part A strategies and strategies that were supported by Title I Part A funds. So in this one, you really do want to stick to programs. So if you come to your Title III program, whatever supplemental services that you provided there for supplemental training or supplements for students, then you evaluate that completely separate and not looking at the other title programs. Okay. Step 3, you identify the funds. We talked about that at length a little bit ago. Then you look at data, the data on the implementation and the data on the impact. And I will keep coming back to that because those two kinds of data are very different, and they will tell you a different story. But when you align implementation data and impact data, and you get both of those together, then you get a clearer picture on whether or not a strategy and activity activity was effective, and whether or not you continue or discontinue that. So again, you have those multiple measures of data, and you're reviewing them frequently. And then step 5, after you've completed those steps, and this is an ongoing process, right? This is a year-long process, is you look at the impact and you evaluate that, and then you make those recommendations, like I mentioned, either to continue, modify, or discontinue a strategy or initiative altogether. Couple of questions to consider here is the program, strategy, or activity being implemented as the planning group intended? So that's another one to consider. So, I know as the year goes by, people will, either come on board and not have received the same training or not have heard the same message. So that's one thing. The intent of a program sometimes and how it's laid out at the very beginning is not what it looks like at the end of the year for a variety of extenuating circumstances, right? So that's just the, looking at whatever strategy or activity it is, and was it the original intent for that activity or strategy? Did the achievement of students in meeting the state's academic standards increase to that desired level? And you're looking at the group of students who were furthest from achieving the standards. And then how is the use of your Title I Part A funding assisting your students in achieving the goals, and how is it making an impact? And then lastly here, do you have a system for monitoring progress toward meeting your goal on the PS 3001? And I will reference that in just a minute. That's our new schedule relatively new schedule on our grant application for the district level. Other considerations is, did we have collaboration between perhaps other schools, feeder schools, and the district itself? What kinds of resources were available? Did we get the support we needed? And then look at what were prior reviews. So if we had that program in place before, and maybe it wasn't effective, and then we see again that it wasn't effective this year, then it's really time for us to consider whether or not we should continue that and get more data. And then also consider the experience of your school or your district with implementing school-wide programs. Now, as I mentioned at the outset there, you are thinking about your audience, okay? The thing that sometimes does not happen with an evaluation of a plan, it might be something that not everybody is privy to. A lot of times, maybe it might just be a campus administrative team, but this is really something that needs to be presented to the staff in the school, as applicable to parents and then other community members. Okay, the results are not a sign the school should start over again with a new plan. This may just be something that needs to be modified. Okay, the school should revise existing plans, incorporating those revisions, and reflect the revitalization of the school's commitment to implement the school-wide program, which will ultimately help all students achieve at high levels. So putting all those pieces together, I've been talking a lot. When you consider evaluation, it really is an integral part to Title I Part A and any federal programs to make sure that you are using those monies as they were intended to improve whatever outcomes or program goals or deliverables that are laid out in each respective grant. So under the PS 3001, the Embedded Improvement Planning Best Practices is look at your LEA and your school plan and your planning resources. So these are just some best practices to use with CNA and the CIP. Planning teams meet, and those planning teams have a wide array of people that represent different stakeholder groups. So special education, reading, math, all the different stakeholder groups that you're going to have on a campus or a district, those are going to be part of that process, okay? So just as you have a wide array of people on your campus improvement plan committee, your SBDM, you also want to have a wide array of people represented on this evaluation team. This is not something that is the lone wolf principal completing on their own. All eyes should be on this, and as you all know, many hands make the work light. So that's what you want to do with this, is you have many different people at the table, just as you had at the beginning of the process. Then you provide any training, any materials, and any time for team preparation. So just as you want your activities to be successful and you provide resources for them, one of the most, I guess, rare resources in a lot of campuses is time. So you want to make sure that you have the time that these teams need to be able to prepare, be able to have the right data, and then ultimately to make the right recommendations for you moving forward. Collect and analyze student outcome data, and then you think about what are some problem statements, what are some root causes that are going to address these things as we think about the next school year, and we think about monitoring and adjusting this plan based off of the data that we have. You're going to need effective problem statements and root causes, which is a whole other training. So if you're interested in that, my contact information will be there at the end. So the big, I guess, movement right now is towards multiple measures of data. So not just having the quantitative STAR data, but also having qualitative data, observation data, survey data, focus group data. It's going to kind of tell you the same story or align or possibly explain why you have a certain set of data. Then you research and select effective programs and activities with greatest potential to improve student outcomes. List those activities required to implement each program, and then you identify a specific person who will ensure each activity is completed. And then the other thing is, in these program evaluations, or actually in the campus improvement plans, people list out timelines. So that's one of the other things to look at is if you said by this 6 weeks we were going to have completed this activity, you go back and you say, well, was that done? If we were going to have benchmarks in the early spring before, as a last, last hurrah getting into the STAR test, then that would be something that you would want to, make sure that it was in your plan, but also make sure that it was done in a timely fashion when you said you were going to do it. So the other thing in this schedule, and this is aligned to, and I should have prefaced my comments about the schedule with the fact that they're aligned to the commissioner priorities. So there's those 4 priorities that TEA has through our commissioner, Mike Morath, and those activities, districts were required to adopt at least one, as if I recall correctly, and this is a part of that, is having these different performance measures in there, looking at all the different funding sources we're going to use, and then how are we using those SBDMs to document the work that we're doing, okay? So you're probably familiar with formative assessment and summative assessment. Here's just a couple of ideas. This is not the official training. This is just what I know to be good practice when you delve into this area of evaluation. First off is looking formatively. If you put some checks throughout the way, you put some milestone markers there, you're going to want to celebrate successes. So if students did well on that benchmark, you want to make it public, you want the data to be visible, and then you want to celebrate any success that you have. That keeps morale up, for one, but it also communicates to everyone that what they're doing is actually having an impact, a positive impact on student outcomes. The other thing is that throughout this is you establish processes and procedures for monitoring against attainment of goals and objectives, and then that's going to help you to provide progress updates to staff and district. So again, that if you have to monitor, if you have to adjust, you're going to be able to adjust the plan accordingly to what the data says, not for some other, intangible reason or attitude that may not be warranted when you actually show data that the strategy or activity is having an impact. And then always look at those changes and you communicate them. So if you change the plan, you change the activity, you change the strategy, all the people that are affected by that decision should have some communication so that no one is surprised and then everybody knows that they're rowing in the right direction. Okay, some other things with summative. So we had formative, now we look at summative is you are taking the whole system as a whole, and then you're evaluating and you're critical. And it's when I say critical, it kind of sounds negative, but you could replace that with honestly evaluate the system. Do not hold back on this, because as you know, if you continue to do something just because it's convenient or something we've always done, you're going to get the same results. I said that before. Identify where the system is getting results. So if something is getting those results, then you want to keep doing it, but you also want to know exactly how it was done, when it was done, and to what fidelity that was done. Okay, so some other questions. Is your campus implementing the school-wide program as it was intended? Did your campus, and these are big overarching questions. I just want these to be at the forefront of your thinking. Did your campus improve student achievement in meeting those academic standards to the desired level? And you are looking particularly for those students who had been farthest from achieving the standards. So by the same token, do the strategies that we listed out have those students in mind? Because typically the first question that you ask when you want to fund something or start some activity is this going to impact not just student achievement as a whole, but for the students, the specific students who are most at risk of not meeting the state standards. So here's the tool, and I think if you click on it, it'll take you to Region 10. They might still have it. I'm not going to get out of the presentation there, but I also uploaded this on this Excel sheet to our webpage that I showed you earlier. But here's your program evaluation. Okay, the committee. You just put the person's name, their positions. You put it on there, and people often ask me, well, when is this supposed to be done? What time of year? Well, it's going to change district per district. That I've seen anyway. There's never been a deadline. Really it just has to be done at the district level or the campus level and documented there. But it's going to be in a timely fashion. Before. So right now we're in the 17-18 school year. It's going to be done as you're doing your plan and your preparation for the 18-19 school year. So somewhere in there after that data comes out or even before, you can start that process. You're looking at all those activities and strategies that you put into place, and you're seeing whether or not they were effective. Okay, so they took it down. That's an old link, but like I said, I tried clicking on it and it's on our page, so don't worry about that. So here's the need, and you might have to cut and paste or make your own template. There is, with this program evaluation, there is no one template. With campus improvement plans, there is no one magic template that everybody's using. People will do different things, and that's okay. That's completely understandable. Some have gone to an online format, but what is required is that it covers all the statutory requirements from ESSA and Title I. So in this is you list your strategy. So right here you would go from a campus improvement plan. You would cut and paste cut and paste the strategy into this box or your own respective box. How much did we spend? Here's the impact. 90% of students showed an improvement in reading, or something like that. Okay, and then moving forward, what are your recommendations? So we are going to continue. We're going to modify by putting it into the advisory period, and I'm just throwing out examples there, or we're going to discontinue altogether. Okay, and then what are the data sources? So we looked at STAR data, we looked at classroom observation data, interviews, focus groups, benchmark data, all kinds of different data sources that are there. Okay, so winding up here, I wanted to show you this. If you click on this from the PDF, I'm going to cross my fingers here. Okay, it will take you to it. Great, it works. I won't show you right now, but each strategic priority offers resources for the different strategic priorities that TEA has laid out. So this is just an example here: recruit, support, retain teachers and principals. So the reason I show you that is when you're looking at activities, programs and activities, you look at this page, it'll show you a different couple of different strategies like support for data analysis activities and data-driven instruction, and you see there's funding sources there. So that's a great resource for you to have as you're looking at what are some different program activities that we can put into place to address these needs that we have. Okay, so that in a nutshell, that is program evaluation. If you need assistance on that, or you need to walk you through that, here's my contact information. My number is there, and my email. And then another person in our department here that can also assist you or put you in touch with us here is Barbara Gonzalez. Her information, phone number is there along with the rest of our team. So from here at Region 1 and in our Department of School Improvement and Federal Programs, I just want to say thank you for listening along. And again, we are here as a support to you. Please call us, contact us with any question or anything that you need. All right? So I'm going to hit stop, and I just want to thank you again. Have a great rest of your day.